Indenachu. Today I want to talk about an issue that affects millions of Ethiopians every day. Water pollution is a serious issue in Addis Ababa and severely affects the environment, the ecosystems, and the humans living in the city every day. Addis Ababa is the capital of Ethiopia and home to over 7 million people. The Akaki River is the main river that flows through Addis Ababa. It starts in the north in the Entoto Mountains, flows south through the city, and finally lands at the Abba Samuel Reservoir at the very base of the mountain. The Akaki River provides 30% of the water that's used in Addis Ababa for cooking, cleaning, and bathing. And it's considered the most polluted river system in Ethiopia, according to researchers from the Addis Ababa University. But where does all this pollution come from? Dr. Johannes from the Addis Ababa University has identified 3 main sources of pollution in the Akaki River: industrial waste, human municipal waste, and medical waste. According to Dr. Johannes' research, 45 million cubic meters of wastewater are produced by humans every day in Addis Ababa. This human wastewater is resulting from human defecation in the streets and in poorly maintained septic and sewer systems throughout the city. Only 4.5% of residents have access to a toilet at home. 65% of planned homes and businesses have a septic tank, but many of those leak. And 25% of people are forced to relieve themselves regularly in the streets because they do not have access to a toilet on a regular basis. According to Dr. Johannes, only 2% of what is produced daily can be processed in the wastewater treatment centers that service the city. 90% of Addis Ababa's residents live in informal settlements. Dr. Laribo, during his master's thesis research in 2006, identified that 85% of growth in Addis Ababa happens in these informal settlements, and over 3 million people live in them today. Very few of these people have access to a toilet, and if they do, their wastewater is dumped either directly into the Akaki River or into its stormwater drain system, which also empties into the Akaki River. But what does this pollution do to the environment? In 2009, Dr. Bayane and his team from the Addis Ababa University conducted a study that tested the effects of pollution on small microorganisms that live in the Akaki River. Up until this point, other researchers had identified very few large aquatic organisms or fish that were able to survive in the river, and they wanted to test the pollution effects on smaller organisms. So they began in the Entoto Mountains, taking samples of water from 3 separate points in the Entoto region. They established that the water is qualified as moderately polluted on the International Specific Pollution Sensitive Index, which is the standard for water quality. And they also established that dissolved oxygen levels, which aquatic organisms need to breathe, were within normal levels, about 7.8 milligrams per liter. As we flow south into the city, they took samples from the Little Akake and the Kabana tributary, 2 of the tributaries that lead to the Big Akaki River. When they sampled here, they found high levels of phosphate, nitrate, and ammonium. And they also found a very sharp decrease in the population and the richness of species found in the river. Up north, they found about 30 species, and down here, they found only 4. Finally, they took samples of the Akaki River as it left the city. This was considered very, very poor to extremely poor on the IPS scale. high levels of habitat degradation, very few plants or other organisms were found, and the dissolved oxygen levels were below 0.1 milligrams per liter. Very few species could survive in these conditions. Humans are also affected by the pollution. 32% of Addis Ababa households are at moderate, high, or very high risk of E. coli contamination, which was conducted in a study from drinking water quality from the World Health Organization, the Ministries of Water and Energy, and the UN. Dr. Aragawi conducted a study in 2014 and asked citizens of a settlement in the Little Akaki about their health conditions. 76% of them had a cough. Over 50% of them had diarrhea or typhoid. And large numbers of them also had skin problems, asthma, and bronchitis. Humans are extremely susceptible to pollution and are feeling the effects every day in Addis Ababa. People use water from the Akaki River for irrigation, for washing, for swimming, and they also use this water to water their crops that supply 60% of the food source in Addis Ababa. So not only are they getting it from the water, but also from the food they eat every day. We've made some strides in the city to combat pollution. The Ministry of Water, Irrigation, and Electricity used to be the only entity overseeing the sewerage systems, but now private companies are able to empty septic tanks and have constructed a new third treatment plant that serves as a drying bed for septic sludge. And the city of Addis Ababa established the Environmental Protection Authority that sets standards for pollution limits, conducts research within the city, and focuses on awareness and education of the citizens and the industrial polluters. According to a high-level official, the hardest part of policing pollution is identifying the specific sources. So for a lot of these organizations, they want to identify and educate as many people as they can to reduce pollution. But what can we do? We need to follow in the footsteps of our peers. India, South Africa, Kenya, and other developing nations have all invested in water solutions in the last decade. India has instituted a tariff on industrial polluters that has funded many new wastewater treatment facilities and really reduced water pollution in their cities. Prime Minister Dr. Abiy plans to raise over $1 billion for infrastructure projects in Addis Ababa. We should try and focus that money on wastewater treatment to ensure clean, safe water in Addis Ababa for its citizens and for the beautification of the country. And what can you do specifically? You can register for the housing scheme. In 2013, 1.3 million people registered for the program, and over 182,000 homes were given out. People need to register so that we can identify the true population of the people living in Addis Ababa, in the slums and in these settlements. And you can be awarded a home for yourself and your family to live. Amasaganalo, thank you.